Welcome everybody, it's the cat and the mat. Woo!
I totally did not expect you to sing that. Wow, that's
I added the woo at the end too, just like one of those wrestlers, I guess. Randy
impressive.
Savage.
Impressive. I think. I don't know. I mean, yeah.
Well, yes. Welcome to an impromptu Sunday, July 13th, 2:09 p.m. or 3:09 if you're on the East Coast, 2:09 Central Standard Time. Yeah. Anyways, welcome.
Welcome. Yes, I haven't done a live stream. I mean, I think I've just been mentally challenged. I've always been mentally challenged, but
but now in a good way. Now in a good way.
yeah. I mean, like I don't know. It's definitely not the smartest cat or whatever on X. The title goes to whoever wants to claim it all the time. But yeah, welcome. I see that you got the total cryptocurrency market cap, excluding Bitcoin here, pulled up, and you got your arrow here is pointing to a curve. It's not one of those big green arrows. What gives?
Well, it's at a resistance point right now. So this is total two, everything except for Bitcoin. So it's kind of showing why things are not continuing their explosions right now. I think it just needs a little bit more, right? And if you put on some of the other indicators here too, it's at the top of that cloud as well. So this is essentially really trying to break free. And if it does break free, then I think it has a lot of room to go. And we are seeing quite a few coins actually start to explode this week. That the dinosaur coins, if you will. Yeah, cones. I have the cones in my head, Cat. Damn
it. 40 and slip from your. Anyway, yeah. Please continue. Yeah.
But yeah, so I just think we're waiting on maybe this weekly candle close to see if it does close, maybe even above that cloud a little bit, to see if we can actually start to accelerate to the upside. I think some good developments are happening across everything, though. Nothing is very, looking like it's going to break down anymore. Everything is looking good. Even when you go to the others chart here, I do have my others chart handy, and it's right at the baseline right up there. But the symmetry of it all was beautiful, and it just nailed that level. And the last time I talked about it and showed this on X was down by that blue arc, and now it finally reclaimed this orange level and the blue angle here. So we're just waiting on I think this weekly candle close, and then maybe we can start to get above all the other indicators of the Ichimoku here, which is the final straw of the baseline, then the cloud up here around the 300 billion mark. And then once that's kind of flipped to support, then I think we're going to be good to go. What say you, Kat?
I don't know. Where are we going to go? Boom, boom. I mean, I'm just been waiting.
Well, I mean, we're probably going to get kind of some resistance up here at the previous highs, maybe the 450 billion. Maybe you can like wick above to the 470 billion, but I think it's not going to go blasting through here immediately. That's what I think.
And do you think that right now is still the time for Bitcoin to shine as well, or do you think that alts are actually going to end up outperforming here a little bit?
Well, here's the Bitcoin chart, and I think Bitcoin still wants to outperform, right? It's going to be breaking above the arc here. It looks like that 115,700, 115,500. Maybe it's going to be flipping to a support, and if it does, then we can maybe even just go straight up to the 140 zone. I think there will be some resistance on the way, because I do have a Bitcoin channel that I have created here for the log scale version. And the top of this channel right here is actually right around like 128, 130. So I think there could be some resistance there on the way to 140. But once that's flipped, then we got a whole new scope available to us at this next channel up here, which is really in the 200,000. So I think 128, 140, once that's broken, things can get interesting. But right now, it looks like there's still Bitcoin outperformance. And I think even if you go to the Bitcoin dominance, it kind of shows that story as well too, that it did sell off a little bit, but it still did not even touch that 786. I'm kind of curious if it's going to, but it's still pretty dominant compared to all the altcoins, right? It's still above the 702, it's still above the 63%. So I'm not seeing a true breakdown yet, even though this is a good down 1.3% candle here. I don't know if altcoins are really ready to explode just yet.
Yeah, I think the 128,000 is right at the 1.4 and 4 log fib, so that could certainly be a resistance level there. Bitcoin, whenever it does Bitcoin things, can be quite impressive. I actually don't think Bitcoin's really done any Bitcoin things for like the last 2 years during the bull market. It's just been stepwise on the way up. So whenever it does like Bitcoin things, it can be pretty shocking. But I do see 128,000 being, the 1.4 and 4 being like the next level to kind of pay attention to. But yeah, sorry, pretty busy chart here. Let me get rid of that again. Here is this 1.414. If you do the previous cycle high all the way to the cycle low, you do this log fib sequence here. You can see that we have finally broken about the 1.272 log fib over here. You've kind of broken about, backtest went down a little bit further. Here 1.414. I initially have this GAN here I've been tracking for a very long time. Looks like these arcs over here has been served as pretty good resistance here during multiple, move on the way up. And currently, I don't know. I mean, initially I thought that 117, 118 was going to be a pretty important level here because of the GAN line over here. But we'll see whether or not this is just a wick. I guess this candle here closed in just a few hours. It could always just turn out to be a wick, because usually weekend price action is just, it does nothing. Usually you end up opening up the week the way that it kind of closed on Friday. So it might just be a little bit of a wick above, and maybe we kind of break above next week. Maybe we get rejected here. It still kind of goes sideways over here for a few more weeks before pushing out. I don't know. We will have to see. But overall, there's really nothing really too bearish about Bitcoin. And a few weeks ago, I was doing the math, and you saw me doing the math for the conversion line. And I thought that a few weeks ago that the conversion line is just going to end up shooting way up. It's going to end up pushing price up higher. Did exactly that. And now we touched the conversion line. We're not too overextended. And next thing you know, you got a boomy candle here. Looking pretty decent here. On top of that, even the weekly Bollinger Band is expanding. And right now it just wants to kind of gravitate up to the upper Bollinger Band as it continues to expand here on the weekly. So that's a pretty good sign that things are going to probably end up going higher for Bitcoin. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't know whether or not Bitcoin dominance is going to keep on just going up here. The only thing is I do see some change of character in Ethereum dominance. I think that the Ethereum dominance, if you look at from like a cycle perspective, I think we basically got down to like 7%, just like we did during last cycle here. So that's pretty bottomy. And right now we're trying to push above this is zone over here around 10%. And it looks like we're building up some pretty decent momentum here over the last couple of months. And if you're also looking at the Bollinger Band here, is kind of reclaiming the 20-week. If you're also looking at lower time frame here, the 3-day chart, it's been squeezing. It looks like it's starting to kind of finally expand. So maybe we have a little bit more an upside here with Ethereum dominance. So maybe Bitcoin dominance won't go, like crazy again. Who knows? These are still lower time frame kind of thing for Ethereum. I mean, it's still a very, very vicious downtrend for Ethereum dominance. So we'll see whether or not it's able to kind of buck the trend for Bitcoin dominance keep going up here. But I just want to say that this is the Bitcoin dominance chart, is the monthly. I mean, this is like the longest cycle there's ever been for Bitcoin dominance. Just keeps on going up straight for like 2.5 years. That has never really happened before. So I don't know when it's going to end. But when it does, sometimes it just kind of, happens in a hurry. See, Matt, we will see. Any thoughts on the queen of cryptocurrency, Ethereum here? Any thoughts about potential breakout, or what you think? You're muted with your new system. You
Oh
Yeah,
no!
I know, like, you're trying to be all, like, mute and sexy, but no, it's not
Yeah,
working.
I'm
Yeah.
just talking to myself over here. Here we go. You can just see the arrow going around with no words. You know what I'm talking about. But,
Awkward.
but yeah, here's the green arc here. We can just take off the fibs real quick and just take a look. And yeah, it's breaking back above. Very, very bullish. And even when we add on the moving averages here and the Ichimoku, and it's going to the top or the bottom of the cloud pretty soon, and that's 3,100. But it got through all this huge resistance zone, and that's a very bullish development. So I think we can actually continue the journey higher. Not only that, put those fibs back on, and we can see it's even poking its head above this halfway point between the 786 and the 618, the 2924.3. So if it closes the week above that, we can actually see that's a very important level because it tried to be a support back in 2024 for a while, and then it broke down. Then it tried to be a support again. Then it broke down, and finally, it's getting its head back above. So if we close this candle above it, I think it could be ready to go to the 31, maybe even the 33.76 above, and this is going to be the big one to break in order to get a lot more bullish. So I think Ethereum is kind of like doing very well this week, but is it leading the way? It's not really leading the way because there's a lot of other dino coins like XLM and Algo and HBAR that are outperforming this queen right now.
Yeah, that's generally a little bit more like an early cycle kind of behavior too. I almost remember last cycle these Dinosaur coin also like started pumping first before. I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to say for sure, but even I don't know if you remember, like if you look at like HBAR back then, back in like February 2020. I mean, I can pull
Yeah,
up
go ahead.
here, look at some Dinosaur charts here. Um, some older chart, like looking at HBAR, you remember like back then how scary it was back in March of 2020, right? Like everybody was freaking out because Ethereum, Bitcoin, the whole altcoin market went down a lot. You can see like HBAR actually like right before that had a pretty green candle. So it does make you wonder, hey, these dinosaur coins are the ones that like generally run ahead of time. I'm sorry, this is a little bit of a busier chart here. Let me get rid of that here. And you can also see, back in March, yeah, like their big giant breakdown here. But this is, I guess, XOM is also one of the earlier ones that kind of recover very quickly. Um, the other one, let me see what XRP did last cycle. XRP actually ended up lagging behind. I think it was still underneath like a lot of legal issues and things like that. But it's just kind of interesting to see one that definitely was a dinosaur coin that ran early on was ADA, Cardano. Like it was just kind of shot up the gate and just ran way far, way fast, and just peaked around like August 2021. And everybody's like super excited about Cardano. Next thing you know, everything like all the other altcoins just kept shooting up, and this is just one of the early cycle ones. So I do wonder whether or not we're just looking at some early cycle behavior here. So the first one to look at is XLM. You knew that this is going to end up going up pretty high here because the setup was there. There's really no mystery. If you look at a Coinbase, which gives you the volume here, the entire downtrend here over the last how many months, like 8 months, 7 months, there's like no volume. Big giant green candle, inside candles number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right now 8. And all it takes just a little bit of volume, just kind of reverse the trend and have like a bullish engulfing that engulfs like the entire previous how many candles already, like 6 candles right there. If you do a 2-month chart, I was kind of showing this on your Telegram group too. There's a rising 3 methods that is playing out very well, where there's a big giant green candle, and then there's like 3 candles after that on declining volume inside candle trend to reverse this bullish candle over here. Bulls sniffed it out. Next thing you know, they just decided to do a bullish engulfing candle that engulf all 3 of these, bearish candles over here. This is a classic rising 3 methods kind of thing. So XM, this is playing out here. There's no mystery. The setup was there. HBAR, same thing. You have a classic kind of rising 3 methods here on the 2-month chart. Right now, you already have bullish engulfing candle that engulfed the last 4 months of price action over there. The other one that is kind of having maybe a little bit of a setup here is Chainlink. Do have a little bit of a rising 3 methods here building too. You have a bullish engulfing candle that engulfed the last 2. 2-month candles, and then finally I was kind of spotting it here with Doge as well. Technically, this is still like 3, inside candles over here for 2-month chart. And right now it looks like it's got like a bullish engulfing candle that engulfed the last 4 months of price action. So none of this is really that surprising. I think the crazier thing is like XRP, it didn't even really do a rising 3 method. It just decided to form like a bull flag that like points up, like this is just one of the extremely bullish charts here for all of crypto, which is just fascinating and incredible to me.
But
Yeah, man,
nobody wants to acknowledge that. They always want to talk
yeah,
crap about it. Like,
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't like. I'm not like big into it. XRP. I have like $50 worth of it, but mostly because I just I'm a little bit of a rebel. I don't like to do what you tell me to do. I probably should have because it's big green candle over here. Um, but it's a very bullish chart. There's really nothing to say badly about it. If you would have accumulated over here, I think it's going to do very well moving forward too, because this really does look like a reaccumulation zone. Um, the entire time, if you look at like the monthly, if you look at the Ichimoku, it's been holding the conversion and baseline like that. Like whenever things are above the conversion baseline and it's holding like that, that's reaccumulation until proven otherwise.
and it's
So
really never done that before in
yeah,
history.
it's never done it here. It kind of broke down and it served as resistance and it just ended up breaking down. Here you have a big giant green candle, but then immediately the conversion baseline was serving as resistance here, right? This is the first time there's ever really done that. So you knew that this is reaccumulation. You knew that the whole altcoin market is going to do very well. And XRP is one of the leaders of the cycle. Like there's no doubt about it. I just don't like to chase whenever I miss a big giant green candle. I just don't really like to buy something like that. I like to buy something that hasn't really broken out yet, like Doge. But that's just my own style. I think XRP is going to do very well moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to take over and talk about your favorite Dino coins and
Well, XRP, I mean, I've been pounding the table on XRP since it was like 30, 40, 50, 60 cents and stuff, but only few took advantage. Not you, Cat. Not you.
Yeah, I did not take advantage of it, but but I think it's just to me it doesn't really matter. To me, like the liquidity cycle is
they'll all benefit.
Yeah, they're all going to benefit. Eventually, XRP is going to rotate out into other things whenever it pumps up a lot. Like to me, it doesn't really matter. So
yeah. Let me just show my H bar chart. I made a post on X about it already, and here's my 45-degree angle, and this is exactly what it did. It just went right back down up to resistance after holding support perfectly, right? And that technically was support, because if we just go to the previous cycle and do the high to the low down here, we can see that was the 50% fib. Right, so this was not really going lower, and it also, if you even add the 200-week moving average on there it's, or the 50-week moving average right there, it was just holding that perfectly as a support too. So this is a very, very nice, healthy chart, and it has really good potential. Or wait, did I say H bar? Yeah, this is XLM. Sorry. But this is, I think I said H bar because yeah, I'll do that one next. But yeah, XLM, it just held perfect support the whole time. So there's really nothing to do except go up. And that's exactly what it's doing now. So we can just see that it's at a resistance point now, and the orange level of the GAN is around like 52.5 cents. And can it just do another bullish engulfing and just close above everything? I mean, that's a possibility. We are kind of starting to see that with H bar right now. Actually, on my GAN chart for H bar here, wherever that is right here, we can see that it's actually trying to break above the top of the arc right now, and just one bullish engulfing candle that's really going to make kind of a higher high from back in May as well. So it's getting a little bit, it's battling a little bit this 25.3 cent zone, which is a big previous resistance zone after it kind of broke down, flipped everything from a support to a resistance right here. But reclaiming that is would be a good deal, right? It would be a good situation for that. But I don't know if it's going to happen this week, but maybe next, maybe the week after. I'm not sure. But just judging by that very first chart I showed you of total 2, it's a lot of things are at resistance right now or close to it. So could we experience some kind of retrace? I think it is possible, but it's also possible that they could just be stuck in a really tight range because they're breaking out of previous ranges where they were stuck. And this is a perfect example. Even this higher high here is maybe around 22.8. and the top of the arc here is around 22.9 in that zone. So it could just be stuck in this little wedge, little range formation until it's ready to break higher. So even though they are at resistance, I don't know if they're going to retrace as much as people would hope they will, because they're going to be like, oh, if it just dips a little bit more, I'm going to buy that dip. I don't know if they're going to give it to you because they're breaking out. They're breaking out. And we're seeing that with so many things right now. Yes, XRP is one of them. Breaking out, right? People are saying, oh, is it going to go back to the 240s again? Well, it spent most of its time over the last 6 months underneath 240, right? So if you're looking for 240 or 225 again, you might be missing out because it's breaking out. It's breaking out and making a higher high from this May high. And I think that's around 265, 266. So if you do get a retrace, maybe just to those levels, right? Maybe not anything lower because it broke out, right? And then there's another one that's breaking out now too. That's Algo. And this one is a huge 50% weekly candle, and it held a support zone too. This black line that I have drawn here, it's not associated with any GAN or anything, but it was kind of a previous important level. Like it was a support zone in the past, right? Support zone here, support zone there. So it held that zone, and then it just launched. But now it's also breaking out, right? It's breaking above this arc. It's also making a higher high from back in May as well. So if you're expecting a big retrace back down to the 19 cents, I don't know if that's going to happen. I think maybe 23, 24, 25 could be all you get for Algo, right? I think that's what it is. And then what else is breaking out? Yeah, you mentioned Link as well, and I wanted to just show that Link chart too, right here. And it's at resistance right now. It's technically not breaking out over May highs right now, but this one never really broke down. It just kept on holding this 382 in this range for a very, very long time, just a very long consolidation. So if you're expecting it to go back down to the 13s or so, it just might not. And it actually might even close the week well above this 50% tonight for perhaps a continuation to the 21s. So I just see a lot of things that are breaking higher that held their levels for a very long time. And if you don't accumulate those zones, then sometimes your hesitation means you're going to miss out.
But that's some extremely Stella analysis that you have there.
Stella, like
Yes.
some XLM analysis.
That's very much XLM analysis right there. What do you think about, a lot of people kind of looking at this, they haven't really experienced the previous bull market before, or they experience it, they don't think it's going to happen again. Like, looking at these dinosaur coins, what do you have to say to them about potential targets on the way up, that could do crypto things, because they haven't really been doing crypto things?
Well, I think it all comes down to if they can break free of their 786 or not, right? That's ultimately what it comes down to. And if they can, then you're going to be talking about fib extensions, right? So if Link can get above its 3165, then we'll talk about 100. We'll talk about 143. We'll talk about maybe even 234 up here, right? So it just depends. And then like stuff that's XRP that's already near all-time highs, right? So the all-time highs are around 331. We're already talking about fib extensions. It's almost, in my eyes, it's like a 98% guarantee to go to these fib extensions. Maybe $8, maybe 13, maybe 26, right? We don't even know. But this is something dependent on liquidity, how much there is going to be to go around and how long it lasts, right? But usually my general rule of thumb is stay above the 786 and it's blast off into all-time highs. And we're seeing that with XRP. We're seeing that almost with HBAR, right? HBAR is at the 702. It's not quite there yet, but the 786 is 32 cents. But if it can start to close candles back above it, which it failed to do back in January, then we can start talking about 120s, 180s, the blue level here at 280, maybe even 330s, right? So the sky is really the limit. And people say this seems like it's unrealistic, but mind you, previous cycles, Bitcoin consistently got to the 1.618. Like Palantir got to the 1.618. MSTR already got to the 1.618. This is a very common fib extension level to get to when things can get really explosive. So if we're talking about things that can break above the 786 on any of these charts, then I think we can fathom the idea of the 1.618 fib on log scale.
Yeah, Nvidia's already got to 2.272.
Yeah,
I think the liquidity, I think, is there, and I think it's still going up, and I think it's not outside the imagination to think about those kinds of things. My other question now for you, now that you got your screen on, thank goodness, is what about the dinosaur meme coin, Dogecoin? What do you think about that? I saw you recently was buying a bunch. Any
Yeah,
thoughts on that?
I basically was buying it on like a 4 hour or daily breakout, but it was also breaking about above this zone as well. I usually don't buy breakouts, but just because everything else seemed very, very bullish, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to wait for any back tests. I'm just going to buy the breakout because sometimes the back test does not happen. So yeah, I mean, the 618, 26 cents, the 786, 41.4. This is going to be the level to break, which kind of failed to do back in December and January of last year. But again, like if we're talking about breaking above that, which I think is likely, then we're going to be talking about 150 to 20 or even $4, right? I don't think it's not unreasonable to go to those levels at all on any of these coins, assuming they can overcome their 786.
That's fair. You know what that would mean to the rest of the meme coins? Are we experiencing meme coin season anytime soon?
Well, we can go check out the Pepe here, and the
Yeah.
Pepe is from previous cycle. I have these fibs on here that I've been watching very carefully, and it's actually starting to get back above this 1.414. So yeah, I mean, if Pepe can really start to break into all-time highs, this one can probably see maybe that 417, maybe this 2.272, maybe even higher. And this one really never even broke any kind of structure ever. It just kind of consolidated through time, not really price at all. It just stayed elevated for a very long time. And yeah, it's bullish. I think it goes higher. And with SHIB too, this one corrected quite a bit. I'm not convinced this one really wants to get too much more explosive right at the moment. We can see that fib all the way up here, right? I don't know if I really want to use that as a high, but if you use that high and the low, we can see it's not even above the 236 here, which kind of is a really lagging indicator of maybe it's not going to be so explosive. So I think anything that's kind of below the 236 now, maybe they're not going to break above their 786, but we can maybe just see, okay, that could be a cap for the cycle, which is still a pretty good gain for that. And something like WIF, I think WIF is actually looking pretty good right here. And if we just did a fib from the high to the low here, we can see that it's actually stabilizing on top of this 87-cent zone, which really implies that perhaps it can go up to the 786, and that's 260. And if that ever gets us support, then it can go higher. So the 1.618 of WIF up here is $27. I don't know. Do you think that's possible?
I mean, hats off to WIF if that ever happens.
Ooh, no, but WIF has to maintain his hat.
Well, a little bit for celebration, that's the top, right? You have to show the top, so that's
yeah. But I just think there are quite a bit of coins that are looking like WIF, like that are right around the 382. Maybe something like an AVAX, right? An AVAX is right around, it's above the 236, but it's right around it's getting closer to the 382. So I think anything that's in the 236 to the 382 zone, they might be a later cycle play, and maybe the rotation from like the XRPs and the ones that are breaking into all-time highs pretty soon, they'll probably rotate into these ones later on and then pump them to the 786, which would be $80. I mean, I wouldn't complain with $80 if it went up there, but if it ever gets past that 786, then we could start talking about 3, 4, or 800 even for AVAX, which seems unfathomable right now. But this is the crypto bull market. You just never know.
Well, if you're gonna go into Avalanche, I do hate to kind of go circle around, but I do wonder what your thoughts on the Ethereum targets above for the cycle.
the Ethereum targets. Well,
might as well look at it. Yeah, you said there's a little bit of a breakout there about the arc. Kind of wondering where the next. I mean, I have the same exact chart. I basically backtracked and I basically created the same cans, so I know what I'm looking at. I'm just kind of
yeah. Well, I think at least it's going to be this zone right here, like the $10,000 zone.
Yeah.
maybe 98, 7,000, 8,000, that zone. Probably 1.618 seems more realistic, 14,000. But yeah, you talked about Nvidia getting the 2.272. That'd be a big $42,000 Ethereum, which kind of coincides where this arc and the vertical line and this fib all are, and that's in November of 2026. So perhaps that can do that. And I think if it does get that high, then you're going to see your links, your avalanches,
Yeah.
your all that just skyrocket. So I guess it just depends on how well Ethereum does, is how well Link and Avalanche and all those other ones that are kind of related to it does.
Yeah, I agree. I think it ultimately depends on what Ethereum does. So, man, yeah, I mean, I can kind of talk a little bit about my thoughts on Ethereum here real quick too. Now that you've been expanding all your saliva, I'm gonna give you a little bit, give you a little bit of a break here. I hear the spit in 3D going around, and I'm just gonna.
Is it really sexy? I mean, I know
I,
you like it.
I don't know. I don't know about sexy. I would just. I guess I'm more complacent about it. But yeah, it's. I'm not gonna say no if somebody's gonna do all the work. But anyway, this is the Ethereum chart that I've been kind of showing with the angry phases here. Really, since 2016, it keeps on doing this thing where there is a little bit of a trend line here, and usually the trend line gets to the point where there's just a lot of tension being built up, and it ends up breaking down because everybody was kind of expecting it's going to keep going up. So I ended up not doing that, break down, have a little bit of a bearish backtest, but eventually push through. And that's usually when the bull cycle happens. And the last cycle did the same thing, but it was a little bit longer. Instead of lasting for like a year, it lasts for about, a year and a half. And the COVID was really when it kind of broke down, but eventually it broke back up and just went to the sky, right? Here, what do we have here? We got about, say, close to like 3 years of this darn thing here where it's just been building up this trend line here, finally broke down and have a bearish back test, couldn't break through, came back down, tried to do another bearish back test here. But I think this bearish back test here is probably going to end up breaking through just because of the way that the whole cryptocurrency market is behaving right now. And also because there's a lot of precedents in terms of what happened before whenever something like this happens. Whenever you have a very, very much of a trend line here, you end up breaking down. Actually, it's not a bearish thing. It actually just ends up grabbing liquidity, getting a lot of people really bitter, really, really upset here. And next thing you know, it just catches you off guard and just keeps going to the moon, right? This is kind of like the setup that I'm kind of seeing here. Now, if you're also looking at some of the individual indicators here, I do think that Ethereum is at a resistance zone, not just from what I showed you, but also from like the Bollinger Band perspective. On the weekly, it basically bounced and found support here at the 20-week moving average. So if you find support at your 20-week moving average, where is it going to go? And it's going to go to the upper Bollinger Band, which is exactly where it's going right now. Could it go up higher? Yeah, maybe over time, because you're still waiting for Bollinger Band to expand here. But it's expanding a little bit, which is promising for the trend to continue to kind of keep going up here. And the other thing is, like Matt was saying, there's a little bit more room here to go here with the weekly Ichimoku cloud, but you also can look at the monthly here too. It is finally breaking above the conversion and baseline here. It got rejected here for 2 months in a row, but you knew that was probably going to break above because it was holding the cloud here just fine last month. And this month you also started right at the cloud, and you did dip down here a little bit, but there's a lot of demand, so you end up just having a pretty decent green can over here, pushing above the monthly conversion and baseline. This is not a bad thing. You need to break back above, or else you can have for a bullish continuation. And then during this process, initially it kind of dipped down underneath the 20-month moving average, and guess where it went? It went really, really close to the low Bollinger Band, right? That's what generally things happen if you break down underneath like the bases over here. It generally end up grabbing up to the other end, which is the low Bollinger Band. Found support down there, or at least close to it, and had a bearish back test here on a 20-month moving average twice, but you're able to, so far, a month is still early, only halfway through a month, but so far you're able to kind of break back above the 20-month moving average. So as long as it's able to hold the 20-month moving average and flip it back from resistance back to support, I think that it would gravitate back up here towards the upper Bollinger Band here. It's just going to be 4,000, which is this previous zone over here. And honestly, it's been squeezing. It's been going sideways here for about 2 or 3 years. And it's also one of the longest liquidity cycle that I've ever really seen. If you put up the M2 here, like previously, you have a little bit of a let me go back to the sad phases here and get rid of the Bollinger Band. Previously you have a little bit of a resistance zone here. As soon as you break above, that's when it goes up, right? But the resistance didn't last too long over here. The cycle is relatively quick, right? Here you have a resistance zone over here where global liquidity kind of stuck here for about 2 years. And finally, when you were able to break above and back test, that's when you had the moon phase here, right? But here, so far, we've had like 3 years of global liquidity trying to break out. And finally, we had a breakout that happened like earlier in the year, and I guess Ethereum is just kind of lagging for by a few months. But so far, you have a continued breakout here. So I just think that we are still at like this phase over here, very, very similar to like this phase over here, very, very similar to maybe this phase over here. So I think Ethereum probably still has a lot more room to go up based on the available liquidity. You just had a breakout and back test. I don't think this is going to be it. It's probably going to keep going for another year, year and a half, or something like that, which is not something that people generally think about because they think that cycles last for 4 years. And
So you're saying
I
it's an
don't know.
extended cycle. That's what you're saying.
I'm saying that I don't really give a damn about
Yeah.
Bitcoin halving
Yeah.
anymore.
It's
I'm saying
ridiculous
that,
to say, oh, every 4 years. If it was
yeah.
that simple, then everybody would be like making money, but it's not that simple.
Yeah, I'm saying that I don't think Bitcoin halving is going to be the driving force. I think it's always been global liquidity. It will always be global liquidity. Initially, during like the first 5 to 10 years of Bitcoin, maybe it was also driven by halving, but it was also following liquidity cycle here very well. Like global liquidity goes up, Bitcoin goes up. Global liquidity stalls, Bitcoin stalls, right? Global liquidity goes up, Bitcoin goes up. Global liquidity stalls, Bitcoin stalls, right? Global liquidity goes up, Bitcoin goes up. Global liquidity stalls, guess what? Bitcoin stalls, right? So there's really not much else to say. I think Bitcoin is just where global liquidity is going into, and I don't think that's really that controversial a statement here in 2025. So because of that, I think that it probably would continue to follow market symmetry. It will also continue to follow liquidity, and I think that we most likely end up going to have a more prolonged cycle rather than not. That's still my major kind of thesis here, which means that if that's the case, and if altcoins are still just trying to, you know, do a little bit of a breakout, then that, and especially Ethereum is still trying to break back up above resistance here, that means that we probably have more time, maybe another year and a half potentially, to go higher,
I mean,
which is something that I don't think people are really like thinking about.
that bodes
So,
well for equities then too. Yeah.
well, yeah, I mean, like you can't have equity. I mean, if you want to talk about equities, like you can't have equities like making all-time highs here, where QQQ just kind of shot up here after coming back to previous all-time high here, grab liquidity, and just have a huge reaction and think that it's not going to keep going, right? I mean, you can have QQQ looking like it wants to continue to outperform SPY, to think that this bull cycle is over, right? I mean, you can't have ARC looking, whoa, it's really busy here. Let me get rid of some of this stuff here. You can't have ARC fund like basically just holding 45-degree angle here on the way up and looking parabolic here and think that the cycle is over. So I think that altcoins are going to follow liquidity, just like equity is going to follow liquidity. Even fart coin is something that I'm pretty bullish about, as you already know. It's got like 2 inside candles here, and it can't wait to break out. If you're looking at the weekly chart here, there are a lot of things that I'm seeing, like it's right about the 20-week moving average. It's like right about the bull market support band. Never really even wanted to like dip down below. It was reclaiming bull market support band from resistance here in the support and back tested it perfectly. And then on top of that, if you're looking at like fit levels, if I just do from here to there, you can see how it's just holding between 0.786 and 0.86 here perfectly. And it looks like once it wants to break above the 0.886, it wants to make some, pretty high targets up here potentially. So fart coin is looking bullish with a nice like cup and handle type pattern. It looks like it wants to keep going up. To me, I think there's enough global liquidity to come in to really pump all kinds of ridiculousness that we haven't even fathomed right now. Like we're talking about HBAR, XLM, talking about XRP, talking about Doge. Like these things sound like reasonable that they would, pump, but like I think the real pump and the real like coins that everybody's gonna get excited about, we probably still haven't heard of them yet. So
Like you're talking about outside the links and the AVAX and the Solanas and stuff.
right,
You're talking
right.
about like the pudgy penguins or something, right?
Exactly. And then people are gonna pump things that have pumped up a lot, and the liquidity is gonna flow into other things. I mean, it's happening right now. I think we already giving a sense of like whatever like Pingu goes up 500% or something like that,
Yeah.
and people are already shilling, and they're already saying, "Oh, it's gonna keep going up a lot higher." Anyway, yeah, pumpy stuff, you probably haven't even really heard of it yet. So I don't know. Like the trend's your friend. I'm not here to make absolute statements saying, "Hey, altcoin season is gonna keep going to the moon." Really knows that. But so far, based on like liquidity cycle, based on what we're seeing with like the Dino coins, it just seems like that's more likely to happen than not. Um, Obviously, you know, if something unpredicted is to happen, then maybe I'm just spilling nonsense. Maybe fundamentals really do matter. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, it feels to me like everything that's pretty close to the 786 is probably going to go first. And
Yeah.
so many other coins, they're stuck in between the 236 and the 50%. I think they're going to go next after that. So it's going to be a rotation from the early exploders to the late exploders later on.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's also happening with equities too. Even people are extremely bitter about SoFi, and next thing you know, it just plays like a major catch up. I think it's whatever you're most bitter about, and people have been bitter about altcoins for a very long time. It just looks like it's ready.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
looks very, very good. I mean, it's hard to find something that doesn't look that good right now. It's really hard.
Yeah, I mean, like even things that are like extremely beaten down that look terrible for a very long time, like Medic, you know, like it's been looking terrible for a very, very long time here. But even it is finding support here. Like if you're looking at FIP levels, even that is kind of holding the 0.618 over here. It looks like
Yeah.
it just went way too far, way too fast, and then hit a strong resistance zone, and it had to come back down. Couldn't hold the 0.786, couldn't hold the 0.707. It has to go back down to the 0.618. Maybe it's holding, forming a little bit of a W here. Like even for something like that, it's starting to form a base. So yeah, I don't know. This is a very, very long consolidation that's been happening. I think the same thing goes with like Shiba. It was just kind of going up to the moon here. It just needed to kind of consolidate sideways here for a very long time before it can do its next thing. And if you're looking at the FIP levels here, it's basically just kind of holding the 0.786 here on like a long, higher time frame kind of thing. So yeah, it's just consolidating. These are probably going to pop one at a time, but patience are.
What about Casper CSPR?
I
Actually, it's
never
holding the
really.
236. It's holding the 236 right now. If you do a high to a low. No, not Casper, CSPR.
Oh,
CSPR.
CSPR.
Yeah.
Wait, what is this? Huh. Which one should I look at?
Well, here I'll put on my
Yeah, here,
chart.
show
Like,
the chart. Yeah, show the chart.
yeah. What about this one? CSPR on KuCoin. You can just see from the height of it's above the 236. It might be just a very late cycle. Do you think it has a chance?
Man, I don't know what to make of a chart like that. I think the best thing I can envision, this looks a little bit like an ascending triangle kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where the top is getting rejected at 0.618. There's a lot of supply there, but the bottom continues to go up. So you've got increasing demand. It's still it looks like accumulation to me. I don't
Well,
know. Yeah.
well, what about A0? Does this have a chance? I don't know.
Wow. If Curve had a chance, if CRV had a chance, because when we're looking
Yeah.
at the CRV chart, like it was terrible, right? And the next thing
Yeah.
you know, all it took is just some liquidity, and next thing you know, the parabolic downtrend reversed. And now
Yeah.
it's not looking that bad anymore, right? So who knows?
Yeah, if you do CRV from this high here to the low, it's maintaining support, but it just can't get above resistance here at the 72 cents. So still stuck, but I mean, there's a lot of coins that look like this. They're stuck between like the 236 and the 50%. There's a lot. I
Yeah.
would say, the majority are really on this list are kind of in that range.
Yeah.
And that just means to me they're probably going to be later cycle. And you're probably going to get bigger moves first with your XRPs, your XLMs, your ADAs, maybe even your Doge and your H bar, right? Then everything else you'll get later on moves. But yeah, if it's in this range, I think it still is safe to say that it's probably going to go maybe sometime after the front runners are done.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna rule out any altcoins. I mean, obviously, like most of them are gonna go to zero anyway. But if the charts look absolutely awful, like I wouldn't even mention them at all. Um, but there are a lot of laggards. There are a lot of leading ones. Um, I think the ones that we've been talking about, ones we've been accumulating, I think they're gonna do okay. So
Yeah. And
yeah,
I know a lot of people have been talking about this one too, QNT, and just wanted to show this chart that I have. It actually looks like it's not bad, right? It's back above the 382 fib here. It looks like the 45-degree angle held perfectly, and it really just been consolidating forever sideways for years since 2022. So this could be another like slow play, and then maybe just one massive explosion later on too.
you mean it's like the next XRP? Is that what
I
you're
don't
trying
know,
to say?
like anything that it's consolidated a very, very long time throughout time and not so much throughout price because it never really went lower than the June 2022s. And when you just take off the fibs, I mean, the symmetry of it all, it looks fine. It just hasn't made a higher high yet. That's all. But yeah, I mean, XRP did the same thing. It could not like break above any of the arcs, and this is kind of the same thing. So maybe once it gets above like 145 in that zone, it'll just go, right? So it's not a damaged chart at all.
Yeah, it actually doesn't look bad if you look at like a very, very high time frame kind of thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, who knows when it's going to break above? Which is also the reason as to why I didn't really get into XRP, because I mean, like it's going to break out. Once it breaks out, it's going to look really, really good. I just don't know when that's going to be.
It's about
And
opportunity
next thing you know, you
cost,
broke
right?
out, and I'm like, yeah, exactly. And then like, once it broke out, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to chase anymore. So
Yeah.
it's kind of awkward for me. But like, I think there are a lot of good. That's why I like the Doge setup better. It's been forming higher highs and higher lows. You know that this is gonna be bullish because it's for the most part it's been forming higher highs and higher lows, and it looks like it's trying to challenge a lot of the fib levels above multiple times. So I think we're gonna get back up there, and whenever you have like this like downtrend, there's like no volume in terms of selling. So I feel comfortable accumulating buying Doge as for that reason. The other reason is because it also has previous cycles to look at, and it's just basically behaving the same way as it did before. So I feel better to get into something like this as opposed to XRP, which again, it's been consolidating for a very long time. It broke out and it went up a lot, but and right now it's been holding very, very well. But I just feel like I don't know if I want to chase as
Well,
opposed to something
don't you
that's
think it's at
more.
least going to get to like $8 to $13? Don't you think so?
Yeah, yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. I mean, but on the other hand, like if you look, you're talking about XRP popping from like 50 cents to $3. That's already a 6x right there. It's probably got more like more X's coming.
Hmm.
But on the other hand, like Ethereum still hasn't really done any X.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, so to me, it's like I think eventually money's gonna end up rotating around
Yeah.
anyway. And if XRP ends up making another 10x to like $23, great. That's very, very good for the overall
Yeah, it's
market.
going to be a rotation
And
and massive explosion for everything else.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. Like it doesn't really matter what you're buying right now, to be honest, unless if the coin just looks absolutely
Like
terrible. And,
A0.
you know, like A0. Yeah, it's already in the name. So.
Yeah, it's a zero. Yeah. People should have realized that by buying it, huh? Jesus.
Or they were thinking that it's gonna add more zeros. That's what the A stands for, add.
Oh, maybe.
But
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, what about like a near or something? This one is still above the 236 here. You think it's got a shot?
They're the
Yeah.
same. Like, this is no different from Link. This is no different from AVAX.
Yeah.
It's the same
Yeah,
chart.
there's
Like,
just
I'm
there's
just like,
so many that are just hovering around the 236 and 382.
yeah,
Just I just think that's great for a late cycle, right? If you haven't
yeah,
really accumulated the ones that pumped, I think it's going to be great for your links, your nears, your fetch, especially. I think I love fetch right here in this zone. It's
yeah.
basically kind of like a larger time scale of a doge, just a bunch of higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, all the way up. You know.
Yeah, these charts all look great, which is why I think like Chainlink, Dogecoin, AVAX, they're all looking very, very similar. I think they're all going to do just fine. You know what my speculation is this cycle, and it's just pure speculation. Like right now, XRP, a lot of people don't care, and it looks like the Dinosaur coins like XRP connection loss.
Oh wait, yeah, you
Ah,
kind of cut out at the beginning of XRP. Try
okay,
again. I can hear you now.
okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, like my speculation is this, and I probably just go through my speculation, and I probably shut up after that. You know how people are kind of hating on XRP right now, and also like a lot of dinosaur coin. A lot of people are having a lot of disbelief. They're saying, "Oh, it's like late cycle pump. This is it," and get out kind of thing. Next thing you know, XRP is going to be like $8 and $23, and everybody's going to be all like excited about XRP. Then the ADA could like pump up to like $5, $7, and everybody's like all excited about ADA, kind of like ADA at like $3 last cycle. Oh, it's too early cycle, is going to go to the moon, and that was the top for it. XLM is going to pump, all these dinosaur coins going to pump, and then people get really excited about these dinosaur coins. And the next thing you know, they chase them, and then they end up not pumping anymore, and these people end up getting into becoming exit liquidity. And next thing you know, meme cycle happens, Dogecoin goes up, Shiba catches up, Pepe does really well, Popcat does really well. Fartcoin is going to be the darling of the cycle, and then everybody's going to like go into Fartcoin. Next thing you know, whenever it gets really, really high, making like 50x from here, everybody's all excited about Fartcoin. And then that's going to be the top, and then they're going to end up rotating to some other things that you never heard of. Whenever after they pump like 50x,
Yeah.
that happens over and over again. We're buying all these things down here when nobody cares about them, and that's how I roll. So
Yeah, it's like nobody wants to buy them when they are shitty. They only want to buy I'm getting the most chart requests ever now, like on my Patreon and everywhere, just because things are pumping. But like when things are really, really in the depths of despair, nobody wants to see anything. And
yeah,
that's when the true opportunity lies, in my opinion, especially when nothing was really bearish, right? It was just making a higher low from previous. Like even this fetch chart, yeah, it went all the way down to the 34-cent zone. But if you look at the high time frame, like that was just a zone where it was a big resistance zone and kind of before it kind of broke out. Right. So many things look like that. And it's just people give up on it at that point. And like that's the time where it's the true opportunity, and chasing it just leads to being trapped. And then when the rotation happens, you're screwed. You're just holding the bag while you could have been buying something that didn't pump yet. Like basically all of these right here, they haven't really pumped yet, but I think they're coming. Like the Solana, the Link, the Near, the AVAX, the Render, the ICP, even maybe even when you go down the CAS and the SUI, I think they're coming too. Even Jasmy, it's making a pretty good move today, right back up to the 382. But still, it's another one that's just stuck in between the 236 and the 382. Like these are the ones that they're going to eventually do a nice move, but they're going to come later, right? The ones that are pumping first are the H bars and the XLMs and the XRPs. So these are doing well now. They're catching up, but they're not breaking out just yet. But that's when we should like them, in my opinion.
yeah. I mean, we're not trying to tell you to buy A0. Like I'm not trying to tell you to buy Neo or like Baidu or Nike. Like that's not what we're saying. We still look at charts and still trying to look for like more decent setup to add to things that we want to add to. But yeah, the idea is to not chase, and just yeah, I think we got the same brain frequency. I think we're kind of thinking the same. We are kind of looking at different coins, but I don't think like my picks you really have that big of a problems, with like Doge and Jasmine and things like that. I don't think you really have any problems with my picks. I don't have any problems with yours. So
No.
it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean they're all going to get some attention, I think, at some point. And whenever that's going to be, that's the $1 million question. Nobody knows when, but we don't decide that. We just got to follow the trends, and so far, the trends are playing out pretty perfectly, in my opinion.
Yep. Yeah, I see a bunch of chart requests. We're not going to do that today. We just want to talk about altcoins, and
Yeah.
perhaps we will do that whenever Tracker comes back around and you guys do your morning show. But you
Yeah.
guys talk about these tickers every morning anyway. So
Yeah, like the meta planets or the whatever. We talk about that on the morning show. So we this is all about altcoins, no stocks, guys. Come on now, come on. It's in the title of the video.
exactly. But people want to try to push, just like a lady saying no, and then you're like, are you sure you want anyway? I I guess this is it. Like, this is a good hour long discussion. We showed charts, we spilled nonsense, and you wanna end the show, or
Yeah, I think that's good enough for me. And I think the last thing I want to do is just show the log scale others chart here. And just to show what I really see in this development of my Gann square, that the breakout and the back test already happened here. And now it's the journey higher, right? It's the journey higher. And how high could it go? Well, it's got to flip this top arc on log scale to a support. And that could be anywhere from the 386 to the 350s, depending on time, right? And then I think because this level was a big breakout backtest level, I think it really is possible to, at least for just the altcoins, excluding the top 10, not the XRPs, not the Ethereums, to get to a 4 trillion market cap. And that seems unfathomable now because we're only at 274. What kind of percentage is that going to be? Really, if you just do this, it would be basically a 1,400%. Right, that seems really far away from right now, but I think it's honestly very, very possible for this cycle.
Yeah, the 2.272 log fib is at 6 trillion. So
yeah, so there it is.
And the arc above, who knows? Yeah, that's the 2.618. I don't know. That's No,
yeah. The full extension's at 276 trillion, guys. That's where we're going. Yeah.
No, we're not saying that it's going to hit that high. It ultimately depends on global liquidity and whatnot. But so far, the trend is referring global liquidity is up, so we're going to look at higher targets.
But yeah, this is a bull market. It's been a bull market since this double bottom, basically back in 2023, and it's just been spending a long time consolidating while shaking everybody out. Right? It's getting everybody discouraged when in reality, it's just going sideways. Right? Just going sideways until it's ready to break out.
Yeah.
So patience.
Yeah, and then flip to me one more chart, then I'll be done. I mean, this is like the monthly chart here with the Ichimoku. We have just started to break above the cloud, and usually boom things happen after you break out the cloud. And this is the other chart here monthly. So yeah, it's been oscillating around the cloud here for a very long time, but it looks like we're finally able to kind of break out after. If this is wave 1, this is like a A flat kind of thing. Wave 2, wave 3 is to come. Wave 3 is usually the most powerful thing, and usually wave 3 happens after you break out above like some really strong resistance that you've been having a hard time breaking above for a very long time, like the monthly Ichimoku cloud. So I think that we are getting set up here for something great. We have had how many inside candles over here? Even if you don't look at this as higher highs, higher lows. And we've just been consolidating sideways here for about 8 months here. Inside candles number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The 8th candle over here is a bullish engulfing candle here so far. And looks like some pretty decent things are getting set up here. And this is a big giant cup. This is like a very complex handle. This is basically how the Coinbase chart looks, guys. Coinbase chart, somebody asked about this. Coinbase chart is already broken out. So that to me tells me that there's a lot more things that are going to come here for altcoins too. And then somebody said, oh, but Coinbase is breaking up because stable coins are the narratives here. It's not because of altcoins. And I have to say, you cannot have stable coins if you don't use Ethereum. That's all I have to say.
Well, they have Ripple Labs USD, sir.
Yes, that's true. You can also get stable coins with Avalanche and Solana But like, who's like JP Morgan going to use? I think, well,
Well, I
and
don't know. The RLUSD could gain a lot of traction because of their connections. So,
well, that's true. But if that's the case, I think that it's going to be healthy for the entire cryptocurrency, space anyway, regardless. So the attention is getting drawn to Ethereum anyway. It doesn't really matter. I think there's just a lot of liquidity coming. So.
Yeah, and it also takes a lot of stress off of because it used to people used to freak out about USDT like collapsing, and the more competition, the better. Then the less worries about if USDT is real or not. Nobody needs to speculate anymore.
Yeah, right now the only thing that can crash crypto is the failure of the entire financial system. I mean, I'm looking forward to that.
Or the internet. Oh wait, no. Jack Dorsey created the Bluetooth connection that you don't need the internet for transferring crypto anymore. So we might be safe.
Yeah, XYZ to the moon.
Pretty
anyway,
much.
All right, I think it's a pretty good note, guys, and thank you for listening in. Very happy to do the stream again. I think we're going to try to do the Tuesday night triumphant stream again with Tracker later this week as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's do it.
Well, it's been fun. See you guys. Have a good time, and I'll see Tracker and I will see most of you tomorrow morning. Yeah. Have a good night.
Yeah. Take care. Bye.